This is Leo Bebou on KTWH's Across Divide show, Grounds Control Wednesday Morning Edition. We're speaking with Erica Adams, the author of Allie's Adventures on the Wonder, who is also the Tale Collector program that's monthly on KTWH. And Erica, you were just talking about the challenges that you faced as you went from childhood through adolescence to adulthood, living with and working through auditory processing disorder.
So yeah, it was really when I hit middle school that was when it got really bad.
And what got you through? If you had to say, what perseverance, that support of your family, friendship, what are the factors that made it the most difference?
Yeah, I did make some friends, and to be honest, just 7th grade by itself, I don't really know how I survived 7th grade.
You might not be the only person saying that. I know somebody in my life who has a similar feeling.
Yeah, and maybe going back to an earlier question, what made APD so difficult, what makes it difficult to this day is because, at least in my case, how it works is that my brain functions enough so that it's like I'm not deaf, I'm not blind, my senses are perfectly normal. And I should mention, it's despite the name, I personally don't think it's purely auditory because the brain, my brain is enough to tell me that it's like the object is there. It's like I know it is there, and at the same time, it's not processing the fact that it's like it's like the word for the object doesn't always come to me, or like the significance of it in relation to whatever is going on in my immediate environment or any point in time.
So it's kind of hard to pigeonhole what you experience because some people would say, well, it sounds like an association, a link of word to object or entity isn't always available to you when you want it to be right away, when you see it or hear it. And that's where I get your idea that seeing and hearing, perhaps when you read the word, you still have that dissociation of what exactly is this in this context.
Yes, absolutely. That's why, books were such a problem for me in my earlier years. For a long time, TV was just a lot easier.
Which is why I was so intrigued before about talking about somebody who is both an author and speaks and writes about the written word, and yet I wondered whether in the end you might be more attracted to things that have a visual aspect to them because they somehow make it easier for you to make more of the connections faster. Yeah,
for a while, there was a point in my life where that was true.
Okay.
I was more a visual learner, but there were times, especially in school, where it depended on the circumstances, like with note-taking, for example. Like especially in college, I had a note taker. I arranged to have a note taker, take notes for me in class, or they would take their own notes and they would share them with me.
I can only imagine that with that particular challenge, it would be all you could do to just listen to the lecture or the discussion delivered, never mind also transfer that to a paraphrase in words.
Yeah, in my brain, there was a dissociation between, what was being shown and said and what I was writing in my notes. It's like, even if I could, take a sentence or two from what's up there and, recall it enough to be able to write it down, it's like, even if I could do that, it's like by the time I write it down, something else it's like we've moved on to a new subject and I've totally missed what's just been said.
Yes. I think people who have had challenges taking notes all their lives could very much relate to what you're talking about. I think that probably we all are grappling with degrees, that most conditions are a matter of degree, and obviously yours was much more intense than others to have had that challenge in your childhood.
Yeah, and it was also made worse, by certain circumstances. Like if I was in an environment where it's like, if I knew if I knew the consequences for like messing up something were great enough, that would make me very, very nervous. Whether it was like something as simple as a conversation with peers or something, or something a little more serious like keeping grades up.
Yes. The higher the stakes, the more the pressure would affect your abilities.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So.
Okay, there's another thing to consider when we frequently put our students up against high stakes in this academic triathlon we've created.
Yeah, so basically my mindset, especially in middle school, was like, there, I did your homework. Will you leave me alone now?
Oh.
And of course, it's like, I never said that question aloud, but of course the answer was always no. So here's the next assignment.
The next challenge was immediately on your lap, wasn't it?
Yeah. So in those points, I felt my life was being completely wasted.
So it was more, for you, it was like getting through each task instead of trying to build on your skills. You were so focused on just trying to cope and show the teacher that you were competent. It was a continuing series of hurdles.
In that sense, I wasn't really learning anything.
Wow. Was it hard for you to become a proficient reader with this condition?
It was. I really don't remember being able to, really read and comprehend something until the 4th grade. I mean, that was the first time that I was able to take a book and, really comprehend what the words were telling me. And that was kind of an epiphany kind of moment for me.
So that satisfying feeling of getting there, did that build then? Did you become somebody who then sought out more and more of the things that they could read and understand and care about? That kind of snowballed?
Well, I don't think that particular...
Not so easily?
Not at that point. I think, that time in 4th grade, that was kind of when, the idea of books actually being interesting and entertaining started, but it wasn't until, 8th grade and onward that I began really, reading. Only very gradually did I get enough time to read for myself.
Well, you were so busy fulfilling all those obligations as a student. It sounds like you had like a full-time and kind of tedious job.
Yeah, and probably the worst part of the whole thing was because that, I'd often have to ask my mom to help me with the homework. And of course, there was only so much she could do, between the, not knowing the subject maybe or just...
And not having been in the class with you.
Right.
You literally had to know the assignment much better than she did.
And so I literally began to hate myself for that. I mean, that's how bad it got. It's like I felt just so useless. It's like I'm bothering everybody. I could just, at least I imagined, whenever I'd ask somebody for help, I would imagine I could see their looks of impatience and geez, this kid is stupid.
So do you have any... Would you offer any perspective to parents and families and the children in those families that are undergoing similar kinds of challenges, learning disabilities? Is it just about what got you through in the end? From the perspective, I mean, you're an old woman now, right? You're like in your late 20s, so you must have great wisdom about what mattered in the end.
I'm not sure how I can answer that because, like I said, I really don't know how I survived the 7th grade. I just kept doing it until it was over. And I was just, praying for the last day of school.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, although, actually...
So there's no magic pill. And
actually, scratch that. I do have some memories. I watched a lot of TV.
Okay. You coped. You dissociated sometimes. Give yourself a break.
Yeah, I watched a lot of anime. Anime was getting really big at that time, so I pretty much buried myself in anime cartoons. And of course, I felt bad because I didn't know many people who actually shared my love of anime at that time, and so I could imagine people thinking it's just a stupid kid obsessed with TV.
Again, a concern about the judgment. People who didn't know you deciding they knew you by what they could observe easily. Oh, she's burying herself in anime, not understanding that you may have spent 3 hours on a homework assignment that might have taken somebody else 10 minutes.
Right. And again, it was that mental question. It's like, I did your stupid homework. Can I watch Digimon now? Can you just give me 30 minutes of peace?
Well, I think there's some lessons to be taken away from that, which is that everybody needs a respite when they have challenges and something that they can just purely enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful that you're on the air talking about some of those things that in large part you can purely enjoy. And I wanted to remind people again about the event on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Erica, if you want to remind folks where, what, and when on Saturday.
So Saturday, November 21st at the Duluth Public Library from 11 to 2. There's going to be Authors Day. We're going to be on the top floor of the library because I think there's some minor construction going on, the lower levels. Do you have the
And as I recall, the address of the Duluth Public Library, I don't have it right in front of me, but we know that it's on West Superior Street in Duluth, and I believe that there is parking available at the depot parking lot behind the depot. I would invite everyone to check that out this coming Saturday, November 21st. This is Leo Bebou speaking with Erica Adams, again on the Wednesday Across Divide show. Erica, I spoke about you doing the Authors Day and didn't give you a chance to weigh in a little bit. Give the listener, the would-be reader, a sense of what they might be experiencing if they picked up your novella, Allie on the Wonder.
Well,
Allie's Adventures on the Wonder.
Yeah, it's sort of a loose retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It's based loosely on that, as well as some of the real life events in my life. Just me coping with my APD. My main character is Allie. She's 14, and she's really struggling with APD. It's not only academically, but she's bullied by 3 girls. Her teacher thinks she's pretty much useless. One thing I've researched is that there's some people out there who don't really even consider APD a legit medical condition.
Yeah, so there can be a stigma because people feel like it's a fill-in for not wanting to work hard enough or something.
Right, because it's like you can't take pills for it. There's no cure. It's like you can't look at somebody and say, oh, they have APD.
Right.
There's no physical features about it.
There's nothing about it that helps them to put you into some kind of category that they, even if it was to be sympathy, there's nothing about you that announces yourself to them.
And plus, it's one of those things where it's not like debilitating enough where people are, readily willing to give help.
So how does that play into your fictional characters' life and outcomes? What happens in... I don't want you to be giving away the book, but just kind of how does it work for her as opposed to you?
Okay, well, in the story, she and her class, they take a field trip on a boat called the Wonder. She meets this other passenger named Charlie. He's, an older man, and it's immediately obvious to her that he isn't quite all there. She doesn't necessarily know why. He kind of has some mental issues, but it kind of annoys her to a degree. But then as she gets to know him better, she realizes that he's a lot wiser than she had given him credit for. He says a lot of random things.
So he may be extraordinarily eccentric, but it doesn't mean that he's lacking in some insights that Allie can benefit from.
Right. And even when she first meets him, she's wondering, is my APD messing with me again? Or is this guy really having...
Is he as weird as he seems?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's another thing about Allie, as related to me. She's constantly questioning herself, her mental capacity. Is what I'm looking at really wrong? Or am I not looking at it right?
Yeah. So the APD kind of inspires not really a crisis, but this ongoing lower level crisis of confidence in your emotional core.
Yeah, it brings on constant doubt as to not only what one sees or hears, but just one's choices and actions.
And you can't just paper it over. People can't pat you on the back and make it better. It's not that kind of thing where you could just instill a little, oh, you're great, and because you know what you're experiencing.
Right. I mean, no one can read minds.
So I would encourage readers, it sounds like they'd get quite an insight into the auditory processing disorder journey by reading this, and that's what appeals to me about what you're describing.
Yeah, that is one of my hopes in getting this out. I wrote the story not only as a fan of Lewis Carroll's characters, but hopefully help to get my story out, in a way that can connect with people. And maybe there are some people out there who, may have symptoms of the condition and, may not know what to do or where to go, because this is very easily misunderstood and misdiagnosed, constantly.
Yeah, it strikes me that your very ambition with this story is the definition of being a useful human being. So if I were you, I'd take a little pride in that.
Thank
Erica.
you. I will.
It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
Erica, anything else you'd like to leave us with? Things to look forward to on the Tail Collector coming up in the months to come?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, let's see. This month I'll give a minor spoiler alert.
Hey,
this one's
a little
going to
plug
be,
and a little tiny teaser is okay.
Yeah, this one will be a movie. The next one will be a manga. February? I'm not entirely sure yet. That'll be a surprise. And
Well,
then we'll go from there.
I'm impressed that you're looking ahead to what you're going to produce for your listeners in February when I have a problem producing week to week what I'm going to be doing on this very show that this interview will be featured on. So I think you're ahead of the curve and obviously showing some pretty good planning skills.
Thanks. And before I forget, for those who don't know, even if for whatever reason you miss an episode of my show, I will have written discussions of each episode on my blog, The Tail Collector, which can be found at ericaadamstailcollector.weebly.com. And there are also links to my email and Facebook page from there.
Perfect. Thanks for being with us, Erica.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you take care and have fun on Saturday.
I will. I hope to see you all there.